All right. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm Joe McKiddish, and today is day 22 of paying my bills with dividends. I'm sitting in this chair with high arms. I'm sitting in my office in Salt Lake today. A little cold and windy and rainy for me to sit outside, so I'm indoors. But it's been an interesting day. Traveled over here, did some meetings, lots of calls, that kind of thing, and now I'm going to invest some money. So it's been pretty cool. One of the comments yesterday was I should add a thing on the dividend sheet for any money I'm getting from people signing up for Robinhood or Snowball Analytics. And I was able to get the money out of Snowball, and so I'm up to $15 total from Robinhood, and then $95 on Snowball Analytics. So thanks for everybody who's signed up using my links. That's been great. So that's kind of where we're at with those things. So I did add those to the sheet, and I did put that money. The $15 was already in there from Robinhood, but the $95 I took from out of Snowball Analytics and put it into the account. So anytime money comes from anything that's related to this, I will invest it in this account, so you can kind of see how just a little bit of money makes a huge difference. So that being said, we're gonna jump right into it. I'm gonna go over my strategy. I'll go over the sheets and the changes I made, and then we're going to go over the portfolio, and then we're going to get into investing some money and see how close we are to our goal. All right. With that, I'm going to share my screen. Let's get after it. All right. My video always wants to be so big. All right. Got that fixed. So before we get started, let's get into this little disclaimer. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I'm only sharing how I'm personally investing my own money. The main reason I'm doing this is so I can, number one, document my journey through this process, where this all came from. Somebody asked me a few months ago, what would I do if I had it to do over? So I have been investing for over 10 years, and it took me several iterations to figure it out. And then it took me 3 years from that point to being to the point where my dividends paid all my bills. So I've been living on dividends for the last few years, and it's been fantastic. But regularly I get asked this question, with the new ETFs that are out, with these new investments, new tools like Robinhood, Snowball Analytics, these type of things. I've used them with other stuff, but Robinhood is the thing I'd never used before. But with these new ETFs, with Snowball, with Robinhood, the margin rate on Robinhood, would I use these tools to do it different than what I did before? And of course, the answer is yes. But I was going to create my own portfolio and do it, kind of alone, and then show people the results. But I thought it'd be more fun to document the whole process on YouTube. And that way I can go back as well and review these videos, and it's very entertaining for me. So I always tell people 90% of why I do is for my own entertainment. But if this is something you're interested in watching me, invest my own money and follow the journey, welcome and happy to have you. So with that, let's jump into what my strategy is here. So this strategy is strategy number 7. Number 6 is the one that got me financially free, and financially free, I mean all my bills are paid for with dividends. Obviously, I'm making a lot more money than that because the Snowball picked up after that, but my initial goal with this was to get to the point where my bills were paid for with dividends, and I created this thing called the Wealth Snowball, which is I just put all my bills in here, cheapest first, so my monthly bills, and then I accumulate enough dividends every month to be able to cover those bills, and I start paying those bills with dividends. And once all of them are paid for with dividends, then I consider that kind of financial freedom, because whether I quit my job, which I'm not going to do because I own a business. I run Blue Collar Connect, which is a mastermind for contractors. So if I quit my job, I'd quit a business and I'd quit working for myself. I don't know how that would work. Give myself a resignation letter. But if I wanted to do something different, I could. Which I did once I got financially free. I did take some time off to determine what I was going to do next, because what I wanted to do next didn't have to do with money anymore. I got to do it because I wanted to, and that's freedom, in my opinion. And then down here, you can kind of see how this would work. If I got all these paid, my monthly expenses are high. The reason my monthly expenses are high is because I've increased my lifestyle, as I made more dividends. So every single day, as I'm reinvesting dividends in my primary account, my lifestyle gets better because I'm making more money in passive income. So if you kind of calculate that over years, you just get more and more free. You're able to do more and more things, and you buy nicer and nicer stuff. So, so that said, Before I got into any of this, years ago, I was a big, like, no debt, that kind of thing. And now, kind of Dave Ramsey style, but now I don't do that, because if I was going to go buy a car or lease a car, I would be looking at cash flow and whether I could pay the monthly payments with cash flow, which is what I want to do. I don't want to pay cash for something. I want to take that cash, invest it, use the dividends to pay the payments. And that's how I do things now. And so it just kind of changed my mindset on how I pay for stuff. So that's why I have car payments in here. The other day, somebody's like, "You pay car payments?" I'm like, "Of course I do." Why would I give somebody $50,000 when I can invest that money and keep rolling cash off of it every single month? Because the cost of the car then is no longer the 50 grand, but it's all the lost opportunity of all the growth plus dividends that would have accumulated through all of time, not just the cost of the car. So now I generally recommend, if you own a business, leasing vehicles, but for me, I do have kids that drive cars, and so I've got car payments, and then I pay my taxes monthly as well. So a lot of these dividend investments, you got to pay taxes on those. So for me, this is not tax advice either, but this is just how I do it. When I get a bill from the IRS, or I'm like, "Hey, this is how much money I owe," I call them up and I set up a payment plan. And I just, every year I'm adding to the payment plan as things go on. And then I'm able to pay the tax payments with my dividends. So that's kind of what that is. So I've gotten a couple questions about what that is, and that's what that is. All right. So the strategy here that I'm going to use for this, I am going to use some of the weekly paying ETFs. I don't use all of them. There's like 150 of them, somebody said the other day, and I don't know them all. But I did take the ones that I thought were most likely to fit my strategy and not lose me all my money. So the share price appreciation wouldn't eat my capital too bad. So that's kind of what I'm looking for there. And to keep that under control, I use dollar cost averaging on a daily. So I buy one share of each one of those every single day, and then I use dollar cost averaging to maintain the share price depreciation doesn't affect it too bad. Then I've been doing that across all of my investments. So in my main portfolio, I have well over 200 holdings in there, and each one of those things I'm dollar cost averaging. So like this morning, when I got paid dividends from that, I went in, and what I didn't need to pay bills, I went through and bought shares. So evenly across all of them. So if you look at my portfolio, it looks really interesting, because there's an equal number of shares of each one, other than the ones that are next on the list, right? So with this particular portfolio, I'm going to invest $300 a day into weekly payers, and I will reinvest all the dividends back into them, and until I've reached $400 a month in distributions. And there's been some distributions that went down this week. Other ones went up. So we'll take a look at those, and I'll be able to show you what happened and why. There's a lot of questions about, like, PLTW dropped their dividend significantly from last week to this week. But if you look at the share price of the underlying and how this stuff works, there's a good reason for it. And so, but it's not going to stay that low, right? It's done this before, and then it's come back up. So we'll take a look at that dividend history, and we'll be able to look at what kind of guess what the future is going to hold, because nobody has a crystal ball in this kind of thing. So, so that being said, I'm going to take 50% of the distributions and pay them into the monthly payers once I hit that $400, and then I'll put $50 or 50% back into the weekly payers, again, to keep the share price depreciation from affecting my cost basis on those. All right, so I'm going to be using margin once my account has reached $2,000, which it did back on the 1st. And so we've been using margin every single day since then, and it's going to speed up our process. And you'll be able to see that how much faster you'll be able to do the math yourself, but you'll be able to see that this portfolio is growing significantly faster because of the use of margin. That doesn't mean it's right for everybody. Somebody's like, "I hate margin," the other day, and okay, margin's not for everybody. It's for me on this particular portfolio. I don't use it in my other portfolio, because my other portfolio has reached a stable point where it's growing on its own. But to kick things off, that's when I use margin, is to kick things off. So I want that snowball to happen faster. All right, so weekly payers are at $400. a month, then I will also split that $300 a day between the monthlies and weeklies. And so we won't be buying one of the weeklies every single day at that point. We'll buy because I'm not gonna eat into margin too deep, right? So I never use more than 20% of my portfolio value in margin at any time. And so we're gonna hold to that rule as much as we can. So still want to grow the portfolio, but I want to do it faster. But the margin, we can't use it so much that it puts us in danger of getting a margin call. So so that's where that's going to come into play. And then shares of the monthly pairs will be bought evenly per number of shares, and I'll be doing dollar cost averaging on those as well. And I won't be doing this by amount of money. It's just per number of shares. The reason I do that is I'm kind of a lazy investor. I don't want to sit there and do math and go, okay, if I have $100, I can buy one of these and two of those, and divide it up evenly. What I want to do is just buy one of each share of each one. And then the monthly payers, the goal is to get a 10% total return. So up here on the weeklies, I'm trying to get a 35% total return, which we've been able to do so far. But the goal is an average of 10% return on the monthly payers. And I'm gonna weight these towards tax efficiency, and I will also consider some diversity there, because I don't want to be all in on tech, for example. There will be some overlap between the different funds that we use, but I don't want to be all in on one thing. I want to kind of diversify a little bit in case the one part of the economy goes on a rip and the other one goes down. I want to be able to capture the up and make sure the down doesn't hurt me too bad. All right, the monthly payers are going to be what pays the personal expenses, and then I will be tracking this down here. We haven't started buying the monthlies yet, so somebody's like, when are you going to start doing that? Well, we're only 22 days in, and the thing about investing that's most important is that you stay consistent. You're disciplined to do it every single day. So that will be the key to success. That's what was the key to success for me, and so that's why we're doing these videos every single day. We're doing the videos. So and I hopefully I didn't turn my mic off by bumping my chest here, but I still see a green light, so I think we're good. All right, so the financial freedom, here's my portfolio that I'm currently using. So I've got the weekly pairs over here. I did put links in here, so if you want to research these on your own, you can. The dividend yields, these are up and down. They change almost daily. So we're anytime they pay out, these are going to fluctuate. So this is the number as of like a week ago. So I will update those for the video tomorrow, so that we've got current dividend yields. And then of course they pay out weekly, and then what days they pay is in here, so we can kind of keep track of when they're paying, what days they're paying, and that kind of thing. All right, so these are the weeklies. I'm kind of split between crypto. I've got a lot of crypto. I've got some tech, more tech with Palantir, HOW, which is built on top of Robinhood, because I'm using Robinhood. I thought it'd be fun to put it in here, and it's actually been doing pretty good. And then Top W, which is Roundhill's top weekly pay universe. So they're actually taking their top ones. Before it was like all of them. Now they're only doing the top ones. Their new strategy seems to be actually working out pretty good. It could be just because the market's up, but as you'll see when you look at the actual portfolio we've been buying for the last 22 days, today, it's up significantly. Everything's up. So TSII, which is Tesla, which I consider tech, RecShares, NVIDIA, which is more tech. And when I put the Walmart RecShares one in here, I added that after we started the process, so that's the only one that I own less shares of than the other ones. If there's ever a big red day, though, and that thing goes down significantly, I'll buy some more to kind of even it out. But we've got some broad market stuff in here with something to build. This one's built on the top of the SPY and the NASDAQ 100. So you've got the Tap Alpha Lift ones that pay weekly, using their own funds as the underlying. It's kind of an interesting strategy they have there, but it's been working out. So game on that one. We got some semiconductors with more tech, and we have more cryptocurrency down here. And the reason I chose these, a couple things. Number one is these are the ones that have been performing fairly well, as long as you didn't put all your money into them on a bad day or on an up day and expect that they're going to do it that way. If you've been dollar cost averaging into these, they've been performing just fine in my other portfolios. And so been enjoying these particular ones. I've tested a bunch of different ones, done some back testing on them, and I don't like all of them. In fact, very, very few do I like out of the ones that pay weekly, but these ones have been doing okay. Doing it my way. Now, I've seen some other YouTube videos where people are like, I'm going to drop $1,000 in each one of these and see how they do. Well, it depends on what day you bought those. If you bought them when they were on a down cycle, maybe you're doing okay. But if you bought them on a day that they were high, you don't know. That's why I do the dollar cost averaging every single day. That's just why I do it this way. So that doesn't mean it's right for everybody, but that's for me. So, All right. So these ones are the monthly contenders. And so I've kind of gone through this a couple videos ago. I did some research on these. You can go look up the research video from a few days ago and see how I discover which ones were tax efficient. So I'm really looking for tax efficiency here. Here's their dividend yields, how often they pay. They obviously pay monthly. I haven't put in the monthly pay dates yet, but I'm going to. And then I'm going to do the 12-month total returns when I get them in. I've been traveling, so I haven't done that yet. But I am going to put that in here so that you can see what the 12-month total return is as of the day that I do that. And I'll change these dates out so you can see as of the 20th. That's when this dividend yield was in here. But I want to put the 12-month total return, knowing that some of these, haven't been around the full 12 months. So, for example, MLPI has not been around 12 months, but I'll put in what the estimated is based on current payouts. And then, so we're going to heavily weight this towards stuff that's tax efficient. And then as a secondary, we want some diversity if we can get it. And then from there, we have to qualify whether or not that these dividend yields meet our 10% requirement. So, and I also want stuff that has a 12-month total return that's in the positive as much as possible. Obviously, this crypto one is not, but that's not necessarily going to stop me from buying it. I do own a bunch of BTCI in my other portfolios, and it's been performing just fine. But because I've been dollar cost averaging into it on a daily, that's why. So, if I bought it when it was at its highest, I'd be pretty unhappy with this total return. But since I've been dollar cost averaging, my total return is actually much better. All right, so that's the portfolio. By the way, links to all this stuff that's up at the top here, everything in here, including my discount link to Snowball Analytics, Robinhood, if you want to sign up for a gold account. All those links, all the links to my strategy and my Google Sheets, all that's in the description below. No cost to you, it's free. Everything I'm just giving away everything. So do with it what you will. So you can download it, save it, print it out and draw on it with marker. I don't care what you do. So it's free, it's yours. So all right, so a couple things here. I moved some stuff around. Based on a request yesterday was, hey, add in what I've gotten from Robinhood from people signing up, and then Snowball Analytics into here. So I've invested so far, this will be today, $6,900 of my own money. And then I got $1,500 from the or $1,500. Wow, that'd be great. No, $15 from people signing up for Snowball. Thank you so much for doing that. Using my link, and then $95 so far from people signing up for Snowball using my link, Snowball Analytics. So that's been nice. And I did take this money. This money already got added into the account. This money I moved in. I don't know if I moved it in this morning or last night, but I moved it in there already. All right. So let's go look at the dividend payouts today. So today I got $13.70. So if you look at the same day last week, so so the Walmart one, TSI and VII and Top W all pay on Wednesdays. And so same here. But last week I got $6.46 on Wednesday. Today I got $13.70. So, I guess that's a little more than double. So doing pretty good on that. So we're growing our portfolio significantly enough that the dividends are starting to snowball even faster. So if we're able to keep this up, we're going to hit our $400 a month pretty quick. All right, so let's go see, when did I move that $95 in here? So yesterday I did. So I moved the $95 in that came from Snowball Analytics, put my normal $300 in here, and to bring me up to $6,900 of my own money in, and then you can see those dividend payouts in here in Snowball. And so with that, let's go look at today. Today is another green day. So all right. So we're up 10%, almost 10%, 9.58% in the last month since we started this. So as you can see, that's when we started this portfolio. So I'm going to move these controls. I got to find a good place to put them where they're not in my way. But the recording controls make me nuts on this. You know what? I didn't think I was going to like the desktop version of Loom, and the only thing I don't like about it is how big the recording controls are, and they're in my way all the time. But as you can see, I started out here with no money in, and then we've had a couple down days, in here, but for the most part, it's been gangbusters. So if you look at the last week, it's green. The last day, of course, is green, and then the last month is 10% total return, or 10% in growth. So that's pretty impressive. We're going to go see what our total profit is on this account in Snowball Analytics after we do our investments today. So a lot of everything's in green. PLTW yesterday was in the red, so and now we're up on every single thing, and some of them were up kind of ridiculous levels. So blocks were up 15.63%. HOW 17.81. So today, when we buy shares of each one of these, we're buying our shares at a price that's much higher than our average. So if you can see, our average price here is $14.20, and we're going to be buying it close to $16.39, which is going to shift our average price upward. I generally don't like doing that because I have so many shares in my main portfolio. I can actually go through and pick and choose throughout the day as I'm going, hey, I went from 20 shares, I need to buy 21. I can go down the list of all the ones I still have 20 of and find stuff that's in the red that day. But today, in here, everything's green and it's going up like crazy. So, that's kind of where we're at. So we're just going to go ahead and buy one of each one of these. We're not going to have much success getting these cheaper than the current price, but this one, the bid price is $16.35. The current price is $16.42. So let's go ahead and see if we can get this for $16.38. Let me turn on my speaker so we can hear it when that purchase order goes through. Robinhood and its lovely little chime of freedom every time a purchase goes through is pretty fun. So here we are at $65.71 is the current bid price. $65.90 is the current ask price, and the current price is $65.81, which happens to be right in between. But I'm gonna see if I can get this for $65.73, which is a couple pennies below or above the bid price. I don't think any of these are gonna actually go through our first round through, but we'll add some pennies to them and see if we can manipulate them around a little bit. All right, HOW bid price is 28.58. 28.57 is what we're going to go with, which happens to be its current price. So I think it's going to go right through on that. All right, so that one's done. Got one, and got my little lovely chime of freedom happening here. Let me make sure my mic's still connected. It is. All right, let's do increase position on this one. So I'm going to limit buy that one down. So this one's 45.94 is the current. It's interesting because the current, like the most recent price was 45.92, and the bid price is higher than that. So that's how you know that thing's ripping up. So we're going to try and get it for 45.92, even though I doubt we will be able to. I think it's increasing in price too quickly for that. All right, NVII, we're going to go 26.76 is the current bid price. We're going to go 26.78 and see if we can get it for that. That's also, by the way, the current price. PLTW, this one's been a drain for me, kind of a bummer because it has been performing poorly. And bango, look at that. One day, I'm like, just when I thought you couldn't get any dumber, do something to totally redeem yourself. So PLTW totally redeemed itself in just one day. Look at that. We're up 3.5%. Yesterday we've been down in PLTW since we started this thing, and today it's up. All right, so all right, we got PLTW went through. Must have known I was talking nice about it. All right, so 23.20. Current bid price is 23.15. We're going to go down to 23.16 and see if we can get it for a penny more. All right, TDAX, top W. Let's increase position on that, and we'll get this to 38.04. By the way, we hang out long enough and we do this long enough together, we're going to get red days where we're going to drive some of these share prices down significantly. But for the emotional standpoint, for most investors, when you start investing like this, these green prices, I see people in several of the chats that I'm a part of that are investment groups. People are like, oh, it's a green day, I love it. And then you get the people who are seasoned, who've been around a while going, I hate buying on green days, and that's kind of how I am. I hate buying on green days. I still do it, but, for me, the emotions have gone the other way. I want to see my price per share as low as I can get it. So I'm making as much profit as I can on each dividend payment. All right, YBTC, I'm going to increase my limit here. 22.48 is where we're at. So I'm going to go 22.49. See if I can get a penny cheaper than the current price. So I doubt we're going to get many of these to go through. I've got a couple, so not too bad. 1226 is the current price. 1225 is the current bid. All right, let's start with that. All right, so we've got all these in here. The dang controls are in my way again. What a pain it is to try and move this thing too. I don't know why I can't grab it now. Oh, there it is. All right, move out of my way. All right, so let's readjust blocks here. Let's go up a penny on this one, and look at that. The bid price is 1640, and then the current price is 1644. So let's go 1641 and see if we can get it to punch through here. So I don't know what it's doing. Why I did edit it. What are you talking about? Interesting. It's not letting me, it's not greening that button for me. All right, let's go to sell. Can't switch. Okay, let's do this. Let's try it again. Replace. 1641. All right, there it goes. Well, that's the first time I've really had a bug with Robinhood that kind of annoyed me. But if that's the worst thing I got to deal with in a day, I'm doing pretty good. So the bid price on this is now $65.81. So we're going to go all the way up to it, and we're just going to see if it'll go through. The ask price is $65.92. So like I said, on green days, I can usually get a couple to go through cheaper than what the current price is, but not always. It's not always like that. So let's see if we can get this for 1 penny less than the current price. NVII, we're going to replace this. If you've been watching my videos for a couple days now, you'll know that I've been able to get these on red days. I've been able to drive these costs down pretty good, and keep my price as close to, my average price obviously is much lower than the current price. And so I'm trying to keep my average cost down as much as I possibly can. And this is how I do it. I come in here and I do limit buys, and I try and get it cheaper than what the current price is, because somebody might be out there selling it where I can get it at a lower price. They come on, they go, I'm done with this thing. I'm just going to go ahead and sell it for cheaper than what the current price is, just to get rid of it or whatever. I don't know how in the heck people are willing to sell stuff cheaper than what the current price is. But they just put a limit, sell in, and I pick it up. So and it's been worked out pretty good for me so far. Over the years, I've been able to drive my costs down significantly on these shares of stuff. So all right, let's get this see if we can get that a penny cheaper. Blocks, which it did go through, top W. So let's go blocks. Current price is 1644. Let's go 1643 on that. See if we can get that to go through. I don't think we're going to be able to, because that one's been going up all day. I've been kind of watching it. All right, so bid price and current price are both $65.92, and I think I'm just going to have to bite the bullet on Chippy and get it for that price. It may not even go through at the current price. I may have to even bump it past that. All right, Maggie, current price is $45.95, and still not going through even at the current price. All right, so $26.79, $26.80 is the current price, and that's what I had the order in before. So let's just see if I can get it to go through. I was able to get a couple of these cheaper, some of them not. All right, so that one went through at the current price. TSYX is $22.93. Let's go see if I can get it let's go bump it a penny. Let's just go do 1 penny up and see if we can get it. We're just going to do a penny on each one of these until they go through. And I'm going to stop looking at the bid prices, because I'm like, oh man, green days when stuff is moving too quick, it's hard to get them. So I think we'll get some of these a little bit cheaper, but not much hope. Especially Chippy. This thing is just ripping, and it has been for a while. So let's just go 1 penny less than the current price and see if we can get that. Maggie. All right, bid price is $45.96, and then the ask price is $45.99. So we're right in there. We should be able to get it to go through at some point here. So all signs are that the market's going up. Like, what was your signs, Joe? I don't know. Look at the chart. It looks pretty freaking crazy. So, somebody told me today, I was like, if you're sitting on stuff that you haven't been buying because it's it's been going down, and your current price, your average price is far less than the, or far more than what the market price is right now. So if my average price was higher than the market price, what I want to do is try and drive that cost per share down by dollar cost averaging down. And so a lot of people are still holding, they've got a bunch of, these shares of these things that are higher. They bought it higher than what the market is right now. What I'm doing on all those that I own is I'm buying them to try and drive my cost per share down, because I believe that this trend is going to continue. Not, I'm not Nostradamus or anything. I don't know whether that's absolutely true or not, but my guess, based upon the way this is going for my own purposes and what I'm basing my decisions on, is that the market's going to go up for a little while here. So, anything I've got, I purchase that's higher than current market price, I'm buying shares of it to try and drive those prices down, as much as I possibly can. I hate buying, in the green. I like buying things that I can pull my cost per share down. All right, let's see. Come on, Maggie. Let's go through here. Come on, baby. Let's go. All right. So we're down to these 4, and they're making me nuts. So we're gonna bump this by 2 pennies up to the current price, and see if it'll go through. And then blocks, we're gonna try and get this one at the current price. And then Maggie, we're gonna do the same. We're just gonna go up to, we're beyond what the last purchase price was now. So the current ask price is $46. I'm at $45.99. Almost never happens that I'm buying these shares like this so close to the ask price. That just tells me that the prices are going up faster than I can click my buttons here. All right, $12.32, and I was at current price on that, and now I had to go a penny up, so I'm buying it up as well. All right, $16.48 is the current price, and it's still not going through. So it went through a penny higher. All right, so as you can see, that strategy doesn't always work. So it went through, and away we went. All right, so apparently it went through at that 1 penny cheaper. So that's good. All right, so we now own 23 shares of everything other than the Walmart one, and we're still green all over the place. PLTW, obviously, today went up 5.5%, almost 5.5%. That's unheard of with that particular one. So we'll see if that continues, or if Palantir continues to have some kind of weird problems. So we're now at $630.12 in margin, which we would be over $700 if it wasn't for that $95 from that came in from Snowball. So thank you everybody who signed up for Snowball using my link. Got me $95. $95 is $95. If you look at these shares, how many shares was I able to buy of these? I could have bought a lot of shares, for that $95. So if we just start at the bottom, I would have bought 1, 2, 3, almost four shares. So save me from buying 4 shares on margin, and which is, that $95 is going to speed up my process. That, so far I'm at $110 that's come in from between Robinhood and Snowball, and investing that money. That $110 is, I would be at $740 and sitting at $740 in margin right now, or more, because I invested that $15 that came in from Robinhood already, and I've gotten dividends paid out on the shares that I bought with those. So as you can see, we have been kind of cranking it. So I should do this. Let's go over here real quick, because let's do total here, and let's total these up, equals and then we'll do those. Yeah, hey, look at that, smart. So between all these, I'm at $710 or $7,010 that I've used, that has been invested, and then that's been cash that's been invested between Robinhood signups, Snowball payments, and then my own cash. And so what has it grown to? So right now, $7,624.97. So if you can kind of do the math on this, how these dividend payouts, actually it's more than that. So the total has been plus the dividend. So let's change that. So the dividend return has been invested. Sure, let's do that. All right, so with the dividends, I'm at $7,121. So that's grown to $7,625.55. So you can see that with that set, even with the dividends being reinvested, and the growth, we are way up. So almost 10%, in the last month. All right, so let's go to Snowball real quick and do a sync on this. And let's sync it from back on the first. And well, I like to go back and sync it because sometimes it doesn't pick up the dividends. So if there's dividend payments that came in, but I only sync it from a couple days ago, it doesn't pick up all the dividend payments. So I want to pick up the ones from yesterday and all the way back in case some got missed. So there's my transactions. So let's go into this real quick. And as of yesterday, I was at $2,674.83 annually, which would have been a 33.98% return. The reason this return is lowering is because my share price is going up, right? So, all right, so let's go ahead and refresh this and see where we're at. We're still around 34% passive income return, but I'm at $2,799.55. So annually, which equals out, if you look at my total profit, I'm at $605.20. That does not count the dividends that came in today. So Snowball is not picking up the dividends from today out of Robinhood. So this is actually a higher number now. Because if you hover over this, you see my capital gain it's grown by $557.83. And then that realized P&L of 5 cents, that was on the shares that Robinhood gifted me of the $5 shares of Berkshire. Well, the share prices went down, and I got tired of looking at it, so I sold them. So I'm not sure what that $50 in fees paid. Oh, that's the Robinhood fee for the year. So they did calculate that in. So that's interesting. So they calculated in my $50 Robinhood fee. And then the dividends received so far in there is calculated in here. So my total return is pretty significant. Like I've said before, if I was a growth investor, I'd be so excited. I'd be so excited. All right. So, all right. So let's go look and see what we're going to get paid on this tomorrow. So I'm going to get paid Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't have any Friday payers. A few people have suggested some. I just haven't gone with them yet. So let me get rid of this nicotine pouch. I can't smoke cigars in here. So Zins it is. That's where I'm at. So, all right. So we're at $21.88 tomorrow, which is a significant jump every single week. So, when we started this, the first payout on a Thursday was $5.84 a few weeks ago. Then it went to $10.82, $17.36, and now $21.88. But what did go down, as you can see, PLTW paid far less in here. So it went from $4.75 last week to $1.84. And there was much panic and pandemonium about this, by the way. But the thing is the underlying, let's go look at this real quick. So PLTR. So Palantir's up. That's why our share prices are going up in here. So the underlying is going up, and so is PLTW. But the last month has sucked, and that's why those dividend payments were so low, right? So that's the way it is, in here. So there's a trailing effect in here. So even though it's been up the last 5 days, for example, we're not getting paid dividends on the action that's happening in here. The way that Round Hill does their swaps, you're gonna have to go look at this. So if you come over to the portfolio and you click on Round Hill, how Round Hill does their swaps, you can click on this and you can actually go over to the strategy here, and you can take a look at this and read about how it's going. I don't have time to do it on this video, otherwise this video is gonna be like 2 hours long. But I strongly recommend that you go through and read these and see what their strategy is on how these work, right? So what's their targeted returns, how are they leveraging things, and that kind of thing. So go through here, take a look at this, and read up on how they're doing stuff, how their distributions work, that kind of thing. So it's a good idea to understand what you're investing in and how to make sure that it meets what your needs are. That's what I found is the more I know, the better, the more comfortable I am about buying things if I actually understand it. All right. So, so that being said, I believe Palantir is a great company. That doesn't mean that I agree with everything they do as a corporation. I believe that their dollars look good, right? From an investment standpoint, I like what Palantir has to offer. From a, I'm not going to get into, whether or not I agree with their tactics or, how their software is used by the government. That's a personal choice for you on whether you want to invest in them. I don't personally invest directly into Palantir because they don't pay dividends, right? And a rule that I have, because I'm a dividend investor, I only buy stuff that pays dividends, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to buy PLTW that owns Palantir, because they do pay dividends, and that's where I'm at. So, all right. So as you can see, everything up here is crushing. Chippy's doing great. TDAX even and TDAC are doing great. YBTC doing great in my opinion. YETH is, it's not growing that much, but you know what? It's still paying, and it pays a healthy dividend, and I'm happy with it. So next week, we're not going to able to affect anything more. We'll be able to, what we buy tomorrow will affect what Box and Maggie play out on Monday, because we'll own it on Friday. But, if you kind of look at this next week, we're going to get paid some healthy dividends, and we're going to be able to have some effect on that buying tomorrow as well. So it's going to be a great week. I believe that, the stuff that's happening in Iran is going to come to an end at some point. We all know it has to. I mean, there's only so long that we're going to have boats floating over there and all the shenanigans going on. And when that happens, all this stuff is going to go on a rip, and I'm going to want to take advantage of as much of the dividend payouts as I possibly can when that happens, especially crypto. So, let's go see what's Bitcoin doing today. It's way up. So, all these ETFs and stuff that pay on top of Bitcoin are, leveraging Bitcoin, like YBTC blocks, and anything that's Ethereum, like YETH and whatever, I believe is going to pay out pretty healthy going forward. So in my main account, I own a lot of stuff like BITO and those kind of things. And, those particular funds, when cryptocurrency is going up, they pay quite well. And so I'm excited for the future and how things are going. All right, last thing to look at here is what are we up to on the monthly, $227.39. And so we didn't make big impact, because the PLTW paid out less this week. But going forward, I believe that number is going to dramatically increase next week. So looking forward to that and reinvesting all these dividends and getting to that $400 a month so we can start buying those monthlies. And then I'm going to go finish off the dividend or this sheet off, and I'll put in the total returns, and we're going to make some decisions probably tomorrow. We're going to make some decisions on what we're going to do tomorrow, Friday, and Monday, and we're going to start picking which ones of these that we're going to go with. So we're ready to go when this hits that $400 here in the next couple weeks. All right, with that, happy investing, everybody. Keep it up, and always love the comments. You want to give me some feedback or give me some ideas on some other monthly ones that I should look at, or really anything. I love reading the comments, and love interacting with you guys, and really appreciate it. Appreciate the support. And with that, we'll talk to y'all soon, and we'll see you tomorrow.